Hey, puns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast. I am Michael. This is Bryce. We have a special guest, Bryce's sister.
Hello.
Bryce, do you want to introduce your sister?
Oh yeah, that's my sister.
I'm his
Abby.
sister.
All right.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be reviewing two movies, both by A24, Swiss Army Man and 8th Grade. We're going to start off with Swiss Army Man. Bryce, give us that summary.
All right, so Paul Dano's character is stuck on an island, or he's stranded somewhere, and he employs the assistance of a farting, singing corpse to escape and go back to civilization, both emotionally and physically.
And by employ, he means a dead body washes up on the shore.
Yeah, and he rides his body like a jet ski with the fart.
He rides his magical farts to civilization.
Yep.
It's very unique.
Yeah. As a general thought for this movie, when I was watching it, it was both like hilarious and charming at like the same part. It was like equal parts funny and then equal parts heartwarming. Like the biggest thing about the movie is the soundtrack. Like it's the most interactive soundtrack that I've seen with a movie. Like whatever's happening in the movie is mirrored by what's going on in the soundtrack, and whatever's going on in the soundtrack influences what's going on in the movie. I mean, I've never seen such a complementary form of like music and like cinematography together. Like what are you thinking about that, Bryce?
Well, I know I'm kind of critical of soundtracks sometimes, but this is one of my favorite scores of recent years. Because it employs like leitmotifs and certain thematic ideas, but it's not traditional whatsoever. The entire thing is a cappella or recorded using sounds that were found in like the forest or whatever, and then processed to create music. And it's really just really interesting, and it's melodic, and it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's sincere, and it's really, I've never heard anything quite like it, and I think it complements the uniqueness and weirdness of the film perfectly.
Right, and I like the thing I really love about it, like you said, that like the uniqueness of the film. It's such a simple soundtrack too. Like the notes that they're playing to, like the recurring like melodic theme that comes through it is just like an arpeggiation of a major chord.
Yeah, and I believe they described it as the kind of music that you'd think of in your head, just like trying to pass the time. So it's real simple because this guy's just kind of like inventing it in his head as he's stranded here. And it really does feel like that type of music, and to a certain extent, like the simplicity of it, like really makes it I don't know, like it really magnifies what's going on in like the story too. The fact that it's all a cappella and that it's both like Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, who in this case, like the characters are Hank, which is Paul Dano, and Manny, who is Daniel Radcliffe's character. And I mean, like that's one of the things that contributes to the fact that they're both intertwined together, is that it's both of them singing in the soundtrack. So it's like it really is, you're inside of the guy's head getting through it. I think it's like one of the things that contributes to his own personal growth. Like the soundtrack is a part of the story. Yeah.
Abby, you haven't got in on this. Let's get some thoughts here.
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying that I am unqualified to talk about music um, because I'm an art student.
Yeah, but
And,
musicians are unqualified to talk about music.
that Bryce says that all the time. So, I, yes, I will say that I absolutely loved the soundtrack for this movie. Um, Bryce had been talking about the movie, so I watched it, and the soundtrack was something that I kept listening to over and over in the sense that it reflects what's happening in the movie like emotionally, and it develops as the movie develops, and listening to it by itself just
A good standalone listen too.
Yeah, it's a good
yes.
yeah, it really does link together in the story, but going back to how I thought it, like the charm in it, they have like tracks of different like themes. Like one of the the recurring theme is the Jurassic Park theme
Oh
that they
yeah.
sing in it. I love that they did like all these like funny corny stuff, and it appealed to its own unique sense of humor. Like it really was like unabashedly charming and unapologetic for what it was doing, and it was just so. It's like hard not to be won over like watching it. When I went into the theater, like there's people that were walking out of it from the first like opening 10 minutes because
Yeah.
I mean, like it's in a A24 film. It's marketed independent. It is an independent movie, but it's not like an artsy independent movie. I mean, and that's not even fair to say either, because it is art. Like there's a story and a message behind
And
it,
there's a lot of craft that goes into this, especially with
right.
practical
Well, like,
effects.
and then like if we get into like spoiler talk too, like so this is where our spoiler is gonna start, but. Well, when Paul like Dano first meets Daniel Radcliffe's character, he's just a dead person, but like the dead body is not really real or talking to him, which is made apparent at the ending. Even though the ending kind of like trolls and makes it like it is really happening, it's not really happening. This is an inner monologue he's having with himself, like Manny is a physical representation of the like Paul's own repression of his own personality, really, and it's like Paul's like learning to accept himself by accepting Manny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like, do you have anything like else to comment to that?
Well, I know that they were kind of teasing that he may or may not be real. And to be honest, I'm not certain whether or not he was. I don't think the film made it definitive. But I also don't feel like I need to know. Uh, that bit at the end is just so delightful. Uh,
Yeah.
It really does like summarize itself as a movie at the end, but I think like the fact that they never specify whether he's really real or not is kind of like a tongue-in-cheek joke to the audience or to themselves, you know.
yeah, I think it's really another like eighth grade. It's also kind of an introvert movie
Oh
about
yeah, like I
Hank's own self-reflection and creating this corpse with his mind, or maybe not, to reflect what he needs to hear or how he needs to develop as a person.
It's very much an inner dialogue of, of a movie. And I don't think it needs to have a clear ending or a clear answer at the end, because it's less about what the end result is and more about the process of getting there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely noticed like right away the thematic similarities, and I understood why you wanted to do these two when I went to go see Eighth Grade, because Hank and Kayla's character are very much like the same kind of people. Like they're like you said, they're both introverted. They're both like unconfident, you know, and they're both like a little sad about themselves. And well, I mean, not a little, like a lot.
Yeah.
The way that Swiss Army opens is not happy, but it slowly like he really does progress to like
like it is a message of self-acceptance, and like the journey that he takes is more of a like an allegory for the mental battles that we all have when dealing with self-image. Like he literally fights a bear at one point, I mean, there's a lot of like subtle messages in there that you can pick out from it that are intentional, and other stuff that, like, not intended by the director, but if you find it, it doesn't mean that it's not true. From like a cinematography standpoint, like this movie, it's hilarious too how it's shot too. It's like it's a bit like cut, sometimes jagged, like whenever they're doing the nature training scenes where they're using Manny's body as a Swiss Army knife, like hence the name of the movie, Swiss Army Man, because he's a dead body that can chop wood, light fires, and ride it like as a jet ski.
He fits basically whatever purpose he needs to, and that's in a very physical sense. Like, yeah, he can fire things out of his mouth to shoot fish, and he can chop logs, and he can build all these things. But also, I think emotionally, that's also how he works. He also
Right, like
he also
I'm glad you
yeah.
picked up on that.
It's very much a multi-sided idea, how Manny fits into the story. And going back to the bear, I just want to mention that the bear was named Tag, and it worked for marshmallows and ice cream sandwiches on the set.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up if you didn't, because the bear had a name and its favorite food was ice cream.
Exactly.
Dang it, Bryce.
I learned that on the commentary, and I just think that's amazing. We can we can go back to the other part now. Sorry.
No. We're stuck on the bear right now. You got to talk about the bear. When was he born? Where was he born? Does he have a passport?
Actually,
We trust this bear?
I'm pretty sure it was a fairly young bear. It wasn't a cub, but it wasn't like a full adult yet. But it was. I think the bear shows up in several movies or something, and it's kind of what the bear does.
We should make a whole channel dedicated to this bear.
Yeah,
It's a movie star bear.
this
movie
bear
star
needs
bear.
to get a YouTube channel.
I'm telling you, this bear was actually the best part of Swiss Army Man right now. Like, you cut out all the music and all like the great acting from Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe. It was the bear.
You just need
that made
2
the
hours
movie.
of that bear.
2 hours of that
I'd
bear.
follow the bear.
Does that bear shit in the woods? Find out next week. All right, I think we've gotten like sidetracked enough.
All right.
Abby, do you have any more thoughts for this?
Okay, like I mentioned, I'm unqualified to talk about music, but I agree that the cinematography is excellent and very unique. And there are several like aesthetic themes throughout the movie, like the writing and the handcrafted nature of the bus and the cave. And I really appreciate that. I really like that.
I thought that was a nice little addition there with the bus that he crafted.
Yeah, the theme of garbage, with Manny kind of being compared to garbage, like when he asks if he's trash. The idea that it's that self-image thing. Like, if you think of yourself as trash, maybe, but you can still have many purposes and applications.
It's more about like changing the frame of reference of what your situation is. It's not about like changing exactly who you are, but just changing how you look at things.
Yeah.
And that helps you see the bigger picture, or so to speak, or like view yourself in a way that everybody else. And like, this is, I don't know, it's rather a simple movie when it comes to message, and the execution of it is very simple.
Yeah, it's simple but very sincere.
It's so sincere.
It pours
it's like,
its heart out.
It's so hard not to be endeared by this movie. Like, I honestly challenge you to like watch this movie. Like, and you don't go into the movie like with high expectations too. Like if you're going in to expect like not like Mother as in the like what happens in it, but like that kind of feel for the movie where it's like little dialogue, super serious, you know, and it's more about the framing shots than it is about like the character, you know. No, this is it's a simple movie, and it's a very like it's a character study, really, you know.
Yeah.
It's a character study, but it's like it's got a little bit of everything for you. It's got action. It's a little bit of fantasy with I guess that whole trash thing that he's having. It's like it's a partial musical. I mean, like
Absolutely.
this movie is a Swiss Army Man music, like a movie.
I'd see the stage
It,
musical.
it
of
seems
this.
like it seems like the more you
Good
talk
money for
about
that.
the movie, the more you realize that the title of the movie was like just well thought out and, and applicable to everything that they were doing in the movie.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about farts yet, which is
Oh.
the
Which is 90% of the movie.
yeah, they actually have they're the first movie in history to have a credit for someone called a fartist. Because they had a sound designer specifically for all the farts they did, and they just had to. They had to call it fartist.
That's legitimately, I think, the reason that the couple that was in the theater with me
Yeah.
left, because of there's like I think there's about like 3 uninterrupted minutes of just farting.
Yeah, like
And it's not just like "Brr," it's like violent farting too. Like Daniel Radcliffe's body is literally convulsing from how much gas is excavating from his body.
yeah, it's I think the farts turned a lot of people off. Like at I think it was Sundance, but a lot of people walked out. And that was because farting is kind of seen as really immature humor, and I guess it kind of is, but they do weave it into this metaphor for what we hide from others, I think.
Right, but
Our
the funniest thing
insecurities.
about that, is that so many people were turned off by that, but like I feel like that's the same people who are like, I understand this movie, and all, like they're the same type of people that'll watch a movie that's unentertaining to watch, but has a lot of very good like cinematography, and the message is very cerebral, yet the actual entertainment of the movie is very low. Those are the type of people that like I don't know. I'm basically referring to hipsters, you know. They're like the hipster critics. Like I didn't like that movie, and this movie is like it kind of like it does that to just like it's like a tongue in cheek, like
Yeah.
telling those guys like screw you.
Farts may be
And
immature, but it's absolutely in the spirit of this movie, and they play it the best I think they possibly could have.
well, it's like it's immature, but it's like it's saying like it's not like you're not better than me for being more mature, and it's like it's okay to be immature every now and then and accept that exists, you know. It's like it's like it's a lot of times like both these movies it's like basically accepting the flaws of being human, but also like being okay with the quirks that you have, you know. And then being an outsider, like basically they're using farts as like something that's tabooed, and you know you feel like an outsider with that, but that's like something that we all do. I don't know. This movie, I'd say just go check it out. I'd give this movie a solid 9 out of 10, and an 8 for audiences. But it's definitely well worth the watch. There's something that for everybody here. You know, it's definitely a family film that you can watch. Well, I might have to redact that. It's not a family film, but it could be a family film.
Yeah.
That being said, Bryce, Abby, what are you guys' final thoughts?
Um, this movie is very unafraid to be what it is. And I really appreciate that in movies. I really appreciate sincerity and like a genuine commitment to making a theme or a message clear while not being too overbearing. Um, I don't believe in rating systems, but I I like this movie. That's uh, 9 out of 10.
Okie dokie. Bryce?
All right, I think I might have seen this movie at the right time in my life for it to just like hit me like a train. Um, so, and this is also one of my favorite movies just ever, uh, which I know probably isn't a common thing to say. A lot of people like Swiss Army Man, but for me, it's just like one of those singular film moments that I just can't compare anything else to.
Well, this movie is still kind of like on the DL for a lot of people. Like a good portion of people have seen this, but there's a vast majority of the population has not seen this
Yeah,
movie,
it's
and I think
it
that's
is an
like
indie
that's a
after
bit of
all.
a shame because this is such a gem.
Yeah, for me, this is like probably a 10. Uh,
Yeah.
it might change over time if I see it. It might go down to 9.5, but I don't see it going lower than that. I just
So like for audience, you'd say that's a 9 for them.
well for maybe it depends on the audience, I guess, because some people are just really offended by farts and occasional obscene jokes. Uh, Meanwhile, I thought the comedy in this movie was hysterical. It's just
Yeah, well, it's like it's such childish humor, but it's so unabashedly childish. Like I can't
it's
stress how much it is that what it is, and it doesn't try to be anything
yeah.
else. Like
Uh,
like being genuine in a movie is so rare. I think.
like Manny, he genuinely does not know about a lot of this stuff about society. So when he asks about it, like completely innocently, it also has us kind of reevaluate how we think of it. Like how
Right.
judgmental are we? Are we also ashamed of lots of things that maybe aren't that big of a deal? And it's just it's a good movie.
You bring up an interesting point there too. Like, are we embarrassed by things that really aren't embarrassing? I think there's like also a cultural thing that you could apply to this as
Yeah,
well. Like
I wonder how this movie would fare in different countries when you compared it.
Well,
Actually,
I mean, it really has like a transcending message of it that like it could make this movie really like timeless, and that's why I'm saying like this is something everybody should go see, at least for an entertainment like standpoint. Like you can't tell me you're not gonna be entertained coming out of this movie. Like, call me biased for it, but like, if you can't get past the fact that it uses farts as a tool in it, then I mean I don't know what to tell you. I guess like you're not like human and you have no childish humor in you.
it's
Like, you
actually
can't accept
the
that.
people who don't like this film are not human, and I think I can settle
Yes.
it at that.
People who don't like this film also do not like puppies, and people who do not like puppies cannot be trusted.
Communists. No, I'm kidding.
You damn commies!
10 out of 10 logic.
Logic. All right, but what's your final review for this? For audiences.
For audiences, it's hard to say. For audiences, it can range anywhere from like a 1 to 9, probably, depending on
Great.
how great they like it. On average, I'd say this is like an 8.5 for normal humans.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
this is definitely 8.5, which is really good for the audience. And I think that this movie is super palatable. Like it's one of A24's most palatable movies.
It might be my favorite A24 movie, even. Which maybe
That's saying
That
something
is.
because
They've got
A24 is a powerhouse.
yeah, they've got a lot of great ones. So don't hold me to that.
And I think I would
Don't hold me to
I would
that.
disagree with you because of because of this next movie, Eighth Grade.
Oh.
Transitioning now to Eighth Grade, which I liked more than Swiss Army Man, and I would say I disagree that this is A20. Swiss Army Man was
I just
A21.
said it was my favorite. Not necessarily the best, but I mean it's hard to rank them because they've got so many like home runs. But
That's
Yeah.
true.
go on.
But
Sorry.
I now have discovered that Eighth Grade for me is the best, and
Oh.
before Abby leaves, because she hasn't seen this, she's gonna give us a little bit of background for Bo Burnham because he directed this movie.
Yeah.
Abby.
Be a postmodernist, Abby.
Oh God, I can talk about postmodernism. Bo Burnham started his career on YouTube. He made songs and videos that were comedic but relatable. And from there, he started doing live shows. I think his first live show is, was it What? No, it was
Words, I think.
It was Words. And the transition of his humor and how he approaches things through his live shows is really interesting and ties into 8th grade.
So, from what I heard, this is a semi-autobiographical. I can't say autobiographical. I don't even know if that's a real word. But anyways, this is This is based on part of Bo Burnham's life, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And from that descriptor that Abby gave, I can confirm that now.
Yeah.
Because Kayla, the main character, does YouTube videos, motivational YouTube videos, sort of as a thing to help herself and build herself up. I'm actually going to toss this over to you, Bryce, and get your thoughts on the film first.
I'm going to talk about it right after I go into more depth on Bo Burnham. The thing Abby was talking about, there's a whole wisecrack philosophy video on this if anyone wants to watch that. It's like 20 minutes long, and it's really interesting. But it's kind of about contemporary humor and its roots in irony and acknowledging our own problems, but then there's another stage of nihilism where we just acknowledge those problems and don't do anything about it. What this movie does really well is it's about Kayla's motivational YouTube videos. And the advice that she's constantly giving is stuff she needs to work on. So she knows what she needs to do, but then when she tries doing it, she has a hard time. She needs to take her own advice pretty much. And that I think that fits right in line with the philosophical progression of Bo Burnham's career. Yeah.
Well, like, it was interesting, watching this movie, because the first sequence that you see is her filming herself with the motivational videos, and the thing that I noticed right away is how much that this seems like a real, like, person, like a real child that you're watching, like this.
Yeah.
The movie has an almost documentary style feel to it, and it even looks like a documentary. Like, if you ever watched like the film, like the filming of any documentary, like modern, like the cleanliness of the shots that they have, it really makes it feel like a real world movie. And the entire time you're watching it too, like, it's filled with like all the actors, like the kids in the movie all look the age that they're portraying, and I think most of them are the age that they're portraying.
Yeah, I think they definitely did that intentionally with the casting.
Right.
They got
I mean,
right.
if we're just talking about, like, from acting too, like do you know who the name of the actor is that played Kayla?
Elsie Fisher.
Elsie Fisher.
I'm gonna check.
Elsie Fisher.
Yes.
Holy shit. She does a phenomenal job in this role. Like, it almost makes me think that I'm just watching her. Like, this is a real person. Like,
yeah,
there's many times like that you're just watching this and thinking how real that this feels. Like, and especially her relationship with her father. Like, this seems like a genuine, like, real relationship between, like, father and daughter. And an accurate, like, representation, I feel, of the teenage years. I feel it's so accurate because there's a lot of times that I was watching this, and you relate so I say you, but I really mean me. I relate so well to Kayla's character that it's like almost like too close to home when you're watching it, and
Yeah,
it's just so real. Like I don't know how to stress that anymore.
I think this movie is very honest and very insightful. If I'm going to draw another parallel between this and Swiss Army Man, while Abby's still here, it's idea of introversion and shyness, and how shyness isn't not talking to people; it's wanting to talk to people and not knowing how. Like if you
Right.
think about Hank on the bus not knowing how to talk to that girl, or Kayla just in school not knowing how to talk to basically anyone. I think it's a really insightful take on that Bo Burnham found.
Well, it's like circling back to like you know being self confident and then just like accepting of yourself. You know, like there's a lot of psych out that's going on with Kayla. You know, and then like whenever she like attempts to get out of her comfort zone and crashes and burns, you know, like you feel the same thing because every time that she attempts to go forward, you know, she's met with the harshness of the reality of being a teenager and being in middle school, and just like the whole social circle and social hierarchies that there are in high school and middle school in particular. You know, like the feeling of being like an outsider. It's really like it's putting you in the shoes of the outside perspective, and to a certain degree, like some people, like I feel like Bryce and I understand this a lot,
Abby
and
understands
I
it.
particularly
She'll know when she
understand
sees the
this.
movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's really like about the outside perspective, and one thing that I think that might actually link to this very well is this book written by I think her name was Alexandria Robbins, and it's called "The Geek Shall Inherit the Earth," and that's essentially about the hierarchies of high school and social groups, and like how outsiders like end up succeeding in the later life. And we're like going back to eighth grade, like Kayla is this outsider who's making her own YouTube videos and motivational videos, and she's basically she is like the quintessential outsider, but she's so unique and quirky to herself, and you know, like she keeps going through this. It's really like it is Bo Burnham's whole like ode like to himself. It's the letter that he wrote to himself, I think, like going back to when he was before he was successful and now that he is successful. It's like it's sort of like how he made it through those years and like kept hope and perseverance through it, you know. Like Kayla writes all these letters to herself from sixth grade, and then at the end eighth grade to high school self, like you know, it's a story of personal growth.
Uh, Abby, if you don't want to stick around for spoilers, do you want to just give some final thoughts on Bo Burnham or something?
Yeah, one connection from the discussion, one connection that I'm gathering between uh, Bo Burnham's comedy in eighth grade and Swiss Army Man is its approach to comedy and its approach to like flaws and real world issues. Because comedy, especially Bo Burnham's comedy, has changed, and it's in such a way that it acknowledges flaws and things that humans do, and like real world consequences of the things that we do, while also making light about those subjects, not in a mean way, but more in a way of I'm 25, so I know the dangers of the world and like the horrors of old age and stuff like that. It's very much based in irony, but also sincerity.
Yeah.
Once again, I really recommend checking out that Wisecrack video if you're interested in Bo Burnham's
And watch his
comedy.
stand-up shows too.
Yes, they're all amazing. I love Bo Burnham.
I'm actually not the biggest Bo Burnham fan, but like after seeing this movie, it makes me want to check out more of his like his works.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of his stand-up that I've been watching lately.
Yeah.
Well, he does more musical comedy, right?
He does.
Or is that
He does.
more Dimitri Martin?
It's like a mix between music and stand-up.
I've never really been a fan of the like stand up and like musical comedy together. I don't know why. Just my personal preference, but I don't know. Like like I'm just interested to see what he comes out with in the future for directing.
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
this movie was I was blown away by his directing skills to the point where I forgot that he directed this movie at the end of it. I mean I'm genuinely just blown away by the amount of craft that was put into it. Like I saw this movie yesterday, so I mean I am coming in a little hot with what I know about it, but there's just so much to love about this, and we'll get more into that. But Abby, do you have anything more to add about Bo Burnham?
Um, nah, I think I've pretty much said everything. But thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Sure
Have
thing.
fun with your spoilers discussion.
Woo!
Woo!
All right.
All right. See you, Abby.
Okie dokie. Spoilers.
All right. We're in spoiler talk now. So let's see. Well, yeah. Basically, Kayla is making videos about advice on personal stuff, and she's really talking about like how you need to have confidence and whatnot. And then it shows her in the film. There's this really great sequence of a birthday party, and how like there's like people everywhere. She's in the pool and she doesn't know how to talk to, and she's completely overwhelmed by all of it because it's a lot to take in for an introvert, especially any crowded party situation. And I think it captured that really well. And it had like Bo Burnham captures how intimidating social situations can be for some people. You know what I mean?
Well, like, yeah, I definitely know what you mean. That the thing that he does so well about this is he's able to put you into the exact mindset and how the situation feels without ever having to directly show it. Or I mean, not show it, but tell you that. Like when like how we mentioned last week's episode, the show don't tell rule. This entire movie was always showing you what was happening with her, and it was never like taking the time to like explain to you like this is what's going on, or like Kayla's character never stopped and was like explaining her struggles. I mean, except for like towards the end when she's talking to her dad, but it's never like she comes out and directly explains it. She's more doing like what a teenager would do in that situation. She's confused, and she has like anxiety, and she's getting depressed from all this, and it's really just like you are taken back to that time in your life where you were the teenager. And I feel like this resonates more so to our generation because this is like it's still the technological age. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a generation after us, but the when I was in middle school, we had like Facebook and Twitter like that. So the only thing that is different here is that they have Snapchat
It's one of
and
the-
Tumblr and more.
It's one of the very few teen movies that handles social media really well.
Yeah, and I think it handles it in a way that's not like it's gonna date itself from this.
Yeah, it's not constantly saying, "Oh, social media is terrible." It's
well, I mean, like that would totally derail the movie.
yeah, it's more about the nuances of how it affects her character, I think.
Right, and I think that the best thing that going for this movie is the fact that it's so
it's so straightforward. Like it never gets off from the path that it's taking or the message that it's trying to take. Everything that Bo Burnham does in this movie, from every shot that he does, from the music that he has, from the dialogue that he's writing, it's all like tactful and purposeful, and it all contributes. And I really think that Bo Burnham, like, he slaved over this. Like, you can tell like how much work he put into this by how good it is. Like,
Yeah.
it's just it's so well made. Like, we could spend an entire podcast talking about the details and the subtle details he used to like indicate anxiety or uncomfortability, or just like how he was able to make you think the same things that Kayla were thinking. Like, like there were certain parts of the movies where something would happen with another character, and you would think this certain thought, and Kayla would be thinking the same thought, which would get proven in the next like coming seconds. And I just like I've never been, like, watched a movie where it stops feeling like a movie and it starts feeling like you're really watching some real life. Like, it feels like a more realistic, like, self improvement movie. Or like, how in like, going back to Swiss Army Man, like, they're both of these movies are the same. They're essentially the same thing. Like, you're learning to accept yourself and self improve yourself, and you're going on this journey. But I feel like, whereas Swiss Army Man, like, the way it ends sort of like it's a storybook ending. Like, it ends so happy, and it's like, oh, he gets everything. Like, I mean, in a certain extent, he doesn't really get everything he wants, but like, it ends much happier than eighth grade. I think. I mean, eighth grade ends happy too, but it ends in a more realistic happy. Like, it's not like getting everything out at once. It's like, it's really coming to terms with accepting all these small victories that she's getting, and that to me is the biggest message. It's like, be happy with the small victories that you get, because they add up over time, and like, that's clear for Bo Burnham's whole career, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked enough. Like, why don't you talk about the music? I mean, there's something to be
Oh,
said about that too.
the score by Anna Meredith. It's I love the textures in it. There's this one thing in particular. It's the motif for the boy she likes, and it's just like this kind of almost this heavy metal kind of thing, like this like badass music, and every time she sees him, it plays. Uh, it's like about who she thinks he is, kind of. You know what I'm talking about?
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it gets like all dramatic and slow motion, and it's pretty hilarious, to be honest.
Well, that's another
Yeah,
thing. Like, the music is like indicating to her thought process too. Like it utilizes that as another way to really understand Kayla's
it
character
is.
without
It's
having to go into too much detail.
just like Swiss Army Man. The music is coming from a place within the character, uh, and it's very much reflecting their internal journey.
Do you actually want to talk about like how the fact like I think that, and this is what I'm coming up with this as a theory. I think that this is like Kayla is like Bo Burnham's character, but I think there's a reason as to why he chose to make it a girl, and I don't know if you picked up on that, but do you want to like talk about that, like, because it definitely goes into it touches some of the issues with like growing up as a girl in adolescence, and like that's something I can't speak to, but it's interesting to see.
I can't speak to it either, but I know that this movie is very much, at least in line with the social media, and perhaps this is heightened for girls, but it's that whole heightened self consciousness. And perhaps girls in school are more exposed to this than men to some degree. But it is like, you're expected to be on social media and to post selfies and,
You know
all
what's
this
funny
stuff.
though? Like, it also like really deals with what modern bullying is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because if y'all aren't familiar with or with like cyberbullying, A lot of bullying that happens is not direct in like contemporary culture. It's more of like social exclusive, like or you get excluded from events, and or like generally like the people just like kind of cold shoulder you. It's like when
Yeah.
you're in middle school, like as an outsider, like Kayla was. It's a lot of like like you're struggling tooth and nail to really try and connect with some of the people because like in particular the popular girl is concerned with like looking cool as opposed to actually like going out and forming real connections. And you're right. It's getting into like the whole social media, but it's like how much that's had an effect on relationships too.
Yeah.
Like it seems like Kayla is coming from a more older perspective. Like a lot of the outsiders I feel like, or in our generation, come with.
Yeah, I think the bullies in this movie are really coming from a place of self-importance, and they're really obsessed with their self-image, and then with social media heightening the self-consciousness, it's very thematically tied in with itself. Um, uh, yeah, because like having confidence to talk to people, she very much wants to be uh, not seen as just the quiet kid, because she is more than that. She has hobbies and she does stuff, and she's a full person, but a lot of people will just look over her. Yeah.
It's like the more I think about this, the more I think of how similar this movie is to that book that I'm saying. I really think you guys should go read this book. I think you should too, Bryce, because it's just
I'll write it down.
it's I mean it's an actual like real it's a real story, or not. It's not a story, but it's a real person going in and following real like high school students. So like that's why like if I can compare this to that, like I think that this it definitely summarizes the nature of modern adolescence.
Yeah.
And like the fact that it comes so close to an actual nonfiction book to being like a real documentary to me, this movie makes it a 10 for me, and I'm saying 10 audience wise too, because
Oh.
like dude, I just like I can't. I mean, like this could be short sighted of me, but like it really is such a good movie. Like, and I don't want to like go on talking about this anymore, because I feel like to do that we'd have to really make a video essay and go in depth on it, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't do any justice. But yeah, like I loved. And before I loved her relationship with her dad.
Oh yeah.
I think
I
that
like your dad a lot.
her dad was basically like everybody's dad. He's like he's the quirky weird dad, but he's like always caring for you. He's there.
He doesn't fully understand what's happening, but he's trying to be supportive.
That's another
Yeah.
thing that I really loved is that they they also like take you through the perspective of the parents, like
Yeah.
and you feel his like pain for her, like because he knows that she's struggling but he doesn't know how to help her, and it's like it's a different kind of feeling, like you're helpless to watch somebody else
And he's just
at
doing
certain
his
points.
best, and I think we can relate with that.
Well, and it's like the movie. Another thing that I thought is like whenever it had something dramatic, it made use of comedic relief like very well too. Because when going more into spoilers, when she starts to have her discussion with her father, it's serious, and it's like another like phenomenal job between her and her dad. Like it really feels like a real interaction between a real like teenage daughter and a real like father. It all feels so real. And right after that, then they break it up with some like comedy. I mean, like honestly, like I got up out of the movie wanting to clap, but I was in a theater of like three other people, so
Yeah.
it didn't feel right.
I
But
wish.
like this movie was a masterpiece to me.
Yeah. The theater I went to see it in also wasn't that crowded, which is kind of disappointing because I really wish more people saw this. I think.
Yeah, like I'm surprised that this movie has had a wide release that it's had. Like it's been in
Yeah.
theaters for a couple weeks now.
And the ironic thing about the whole situation is that middle schoolers and high schoolers would really benefit from seeing this movie, but it's rated R because it's exactly as a middle school or high school would be.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that
I didn't even realize this
Yeah.
was rated R, but it definitely does touch into some dark topics too.
That's-
Like it doesn't shy away from 'em.
the ratings association definitely needs to revise something because yeah. Anyway,
I don't, dude. Well, like I'm almost like thinking like this is something that like can definitely be shown to everybody,
Exactly.
like in high schools. And it sucks that it's rated R because this is like something everybody should see as like you said as a in like middle school and high school.
yeah, as a
Um,
culture, we're censoring the wrong things probably.
Yeah.
Because this movie isn't showing anything that is beyond what any middle schooler would experience in school.
Right.
Anyway.
You're right. You're right. It is a shame that people like haven't gone out to see it.
And
I mean, like I feel like this movie was trying to market to a larger audience, but it probably would have been best to stay like small with this. But I mean, it should have more people watching it. Like if this what's her name again?
Elsie Fisher.
Elsie Fisher.
Yeah.
If she doesn't win the Oscar for best like actress, like or young actress,
She needs to be
actress, or
nominated at least.
she needs to be nominated. I'm serious. Like this girl is going to be a monster for acting in
Yeah.
the future because like this girl's got a bright future as long as she can stay away from like the sins of Hollywood.
Yeah, from an interview I listened to, Bo Burnham basically knew she was the one, and he had to interview like 100 kids or something. She was a third one, and he knew from then that she was gonna be it. And I just
That's
think
crazy.
yeah, it shows not only her acting skill, but how right she was for the character, and how much that character was probably also in her, and how much she understood the dynamics there.
That's what I was thinking too. Like I feel like she used a lot of her own experiences as a teenager. And I feel like she's probably even using more of like her experience as like a child actor too. Like that's another thing that it would be interesting if we see something in the future with that, not from Bo Burnham, but from other like films, like possibly A24 releasing another movie like that. I don't know if it was just me, but I thought at the end of the movie, I thought this would be an interesting thing if they continue. Like, let's go now and take a look at high school, and do that. Like, if Bo Burnham made like a sequel to this movie, and like, I don't
Ninth
know, because
grade.
like I feel like that could actually really work. Like, there's like something to be said, like going through and making different different period pieces of his life.
Eighth grade
or
too.
like even if it's not
Ninth
even
grade.
about his life, or just like it's just about how high school is. Like, that'd be interesting if he did that.
Yeah. We could call the sequel 8th grade to 9th grade.
I don't know if there's much to talk about in
Yeah.
ninth grade, because ninth grade is just basically eighth grade, but you're in high school.
Yeah.
High school
Yeah.
doesn't start till you're in 10th grade. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, yeah.
There's 100% truth to that. Like when people say like shit on freshmen, it's because you're still fucking middle schoolers.
Yeah.
But anyways, Bryce, let's get your final thoughts for this.
I liked it a lot. I think I had a slight disconnect with it in the fact that I was expecting it to be really good, and it was. And there's always a little bit of a disappointment when things meet expectations, which is a weird thing to say. But for me, right now it's an 8.5. But I'm definitely watching this again, and I can definitely see my rating going up to a 9 or 9.5, maybe even a 10. But it did.
Okay, so
it did
like
hit a sweet
8.5,
spot.
8.5 for audiences.
8.5 or 9 for audiences too, I'd say. I think on Metacritic it's got like a 90 right now.
Yeah, it's definitely
And
up
it's,
on the.
it's definitely up there. Yeah.
I let me see, what was I gonna say?
Yeah, like I said, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I came in with no prior knowledge or no expectations at all, and it
Yeah.
it won me over within within the 5 minutes. This is why I like I say, like, the first shot of the movie, you're just like, all right, wow, we're in this. This is I'm ready to go. Let's go through this. I'm ready to take this journey.
I think
Go check it out, everybody. Seriously, 8th grade. Go check out both these movies, Swiss Army and 8th Grade. These are definitely the uppers that we needed from the last week's episode.
yeah, and I think it's a really interesting discussion about how expectations affect how much we like a movie. Because Swiss Army Man, I went in completely blind almost. I checked it out from the library just because I liked the title. And I think if I went into 8th grade not knowing much about it, instead of being amateur Bo Burnham expert, I'm just kidding, but I probably
Dang.
would have liked it a bit more. And I mean, I liked it, to be clear, I did like it a lot. It's just I'm curious about how I would have reacted to it if I just knew nothing. It's an interesting concept, but I can't wait to watch this again because I'm pretty sure it's gonna hit me even harder the second time.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to go see this with a group of my friends, just so they can all start bawling too.
Yeah, it's without a doubt gonna be one of the best movies of the year.
I mean, honestly, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't check this movie out.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be. I'm predicting this, and I think it will. It's definitely going to be in a bunch of the categories for the Oscars.
It better be.
And it better be. If it's not, then I know that the Oscars.
It
I mean,
goes-
I already know they're a joke,
Yeah,
but
because they
they'd
just
be more
added
of a
that
joke.
new popular film category.
They really.
Yeah, they did. They're adding a category for best popular film.
So
AKA,
basically, they're adding a category for Marvel films.
yeah, exactly. They might as well just call it the Marvel Film of the Year, and then they give an
Yo.
Oscar to films that were produced by Marvel. Yeah,
Would you be surprised if Disney bought out the film or somehow was able to get control over the Oscars?
I would not be surprised.
Because Disney owns everything now. I swear to God, I see in the future we live in a 1984 Disney world where it's just all it's a small world after all, playing as torture for people who talk bad about yeah. So if you see
Yeah.
me in 5 years in the middle of the park or in the middle of town square with It's a Small World and my eyes propped open in Clockwork Orange, watching nothing but Steamboat Willie, you'll know that I'm in trouble for talking shit about Disney.
Yeah. Anyway,
But anyways, that's gonna wrap up our review today of Swiss Army Man and 8th Grade. We thank you for taking the time to listen. All right, have a great day.
yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I understand this movie.